Good morning, everyone. If you could hear me, you could raise your hand or give me a thumbs up, please. Lovely. Right, we still have about 3 minutes until we start. I'm just going to tell you the plan for class for the month within that time for July, August. Well, as you can see, a trip to the zoo. What we're really working up to is writing a letter to our Spanish speaking friend, talking about reminiscing about a trip we took and visited the Patagonia region in um any of the countries that falls in, right? But we're gonna start by talking about the zoo and then revising past tense, and then we go to the letter, right? So that is our layout. This is a class, as it says on the screen, for students in Form 4 and Form 5. And if you're an adult, you would have some kind of background already in Spanish. Or if you're a beginning adult, or a beginning student, you would have attended yesterday's class and then you come into this class as well to just get a little extra, right? So if you are a younger student and you're here, um, and what you find what we're doing today a little confusing, that's to be expected, right? How many of y'all, you can show me with a raised hand again, have done portrait and imperfect already? Nice. So quite a few people. And do you ever find, so I'm going to unmute the chat so you can tell me, do you ever find that you mix up the portrait and imperfect? You have trouble telling when to use which one? So we want to work on that and clarifying that. The thing is, to get a good mark, a strong mark in paper two, you have to know your past tense inside out. Because the letter, past tense. Some of the converse dialogue, past tense. Right? So we have to know past tense inside out. Some of the situations, past tense, but definitely letter, past tense, right? All right, so one more minute and we will start. The class again is really for higher forms 4 and 5, and intermediate adults, meaning they've had some Spanish before, like a year of Spanish before, a few months before. However, younger students are welcome to join. I'm not going to assume you know the grammar. We will go over the grammar. We just might be doing it at a faster pace. Right, that's the thing. Some younger students, like the students tell me they're not going to Form 3, but they've done the topic already. It really depends on how your school plans and paces their Spanish class, right? And some people might be going into Form 4 and they've done the topic multiple times and they're still kind of sketchy on, oh, well, how do I form the portrait? How do I form the imperfect? Right? All right. So if your hand is up, you could go ahead and lower it. Because during class, I might ask something and I might ask you to put it up again, right? Please and thank you. I'm going to start by sharing a couple of resources with you, right? And showing you what the homework is. I will do it again during class because more people will join as the session goes on, even though I would like to think everybody would be on time. We know in a realistic world that doesn't always happen, right? So here is the link. You've probably gotten it multiple times already for the recordings. When you click on the link, you will get this page. Sir has shared it on the channel. So if you follow, you should be following the channel to get this to your device, to your phone, right? And so if you're following the channel, you've already seen this link. If you're in previous classes, you've already gotten this link. If you were in classes earlier this week, right? So after class today, you will go down to Friday Spanish here. If you need the recording, and so we'll post the recording right here. And then over here, you will see a link to my notes, which is this PowerPoint where I will handwrite notes with you. So what I handwrite on the screen is what I expect you to have in your notebook, right? And then you will also get this link to this PowerPoint, which is what we're using, but not this first slide, right? We're down here. Down. Here by our class starts from slide 35, right? But you'll look through and you'll find it, and you might find other fun things, right? And you'll see the homework. The homework is complete your notes using the PowerPoints, memorize any new vocabulary and grammar rules. That's always the homework, right? And also I'm asking you to research Patagonia. And I have here complete the activities on slide 45. So if I look in the PowerPoint slide 4 and I show you slide 45 is this, right? So it's to practice because we will go through how we make preterites and imperfect tenses. So it will be to practice this. We have a comprehension that we might finish, in which case this will be done. And then this, research the Patagonia's region in as a tourist destination in Latin America, right? Because remember, ultimately, we want to write a letter where a scenario is we're talking to a friend about a trip to the Patagonia, right? Okay, if you have any questions, you could put them in the chat. I think I'll be able to leave the chat on for Zoom today because usually the Friday class is not a chatty. The Friday Spanish morning class is not a chatty class. So I could manage the messages. Okay, right, but hold off on the good morning and the hellos, please, because they pile up and then it's hard for me to get to questions. Right. Now, we don't have a game, but we have these. Estar como una cabra. To be like a goat. What does it mean? I'm going to launch a poll question and you'll tell me. Right? So you can see the poll question on your screen. What do you think it means? Does it mean to be very hungry? Goats are notoriously very hungry. They eat everything. Anybody ever had a goat? They eat car parts, they eat clothes, they eat plastic. It doesn't mean to be completely crazy, also notoriously crazy. Does it mean to act very quickly? Does it mean to feel tired? Hmm. All right, most of y'all actually have it correct. I'm gonna give 5 more seconds if you want to, and there will be a few people who can't access the poll. They always are. I'm sorry. Right? I'm gonna give 5 more seconds. All right. And these are the results. So the majority of people chose B, and yes, it does mean to be completely crazy. So now let's note this, right? One of the ways we get good at Spanish is we build up our vocabulary. And we build up our vocabulary list when we meet new expressions, right? Now you are welcome to take your notes from the slide. Sometimes, however, students get a bit confused about just from experience, I'm saying they get confused about what to write from my slides. So I'm going to help us out so we could all stay on the same page, right? Take notes. Today's the 24th of July, 2026. However, you already date, it's fine, obviously, Spanish. Okay, so first thing, we have an idiomatic expression. Estar como una cabra. Literally to be like a goat, but not permanently because it's a star. Right? And so what does that mean? To act crazy. So you're writing your letter to your friend, you're telling them you met somebody new, And you could use this expression. Estaba como una cabra, right? Okay, let's continue. Let's go to the comprehension passage. It's a fairly simple comprehension passage, right? Now, let me see. Right, I have to negotiate because I have to take a screenshot and keep this. Right, so let me get rid of this, put this back as a screenshot, and back to our passage. Yes, so now we can do slideshow without the writing interrupting us. Okay, so we're going to our local zoo, which got elephants recently, right? No, not really, but we'll pretend, right? And these are the questions we want to be able to answer. So you could have them in the back of your mind. You're looking for the answers. Just as with the comprehension you would get in a paper two, they will follow the order in the passage. So how did the family travel to the zoo and who went on the trip? What kind of weather was it like on the day of the zoo visit? What did the family observe about the zebras? How are elephants described in the passage? What special feature of giraffes is mentioned? What did the narrator eat and drink at the cafe? What did the family buy at the gift shop? And then lastly, because we're going to go ahead and next week put the passage into past tense, I'm asking you if you could find the verbs in the passage, right? That's not a write down question. That's a let's look together question. Okay, we want to spend not more than 20 minutes on this. So if we don't finish your questions, you will finish your rest of homework, right? All right. So in terms of what we are writing, we're writing two sets of things. We're writing the answers to the questions, and we are writing any new vocabulary that we meet. Right? Now, everybody will have a different list of new vocabulary. Some people will know some words already. Some people will know others. So focus on the words that are new to you, right? And if you don't know a phrase or you don't know a word, you can message and ask me. All right. Mi familia y yo vamos al zoológico en carro. Nosotros estamos muy contentos porque pasamos el día juntos. Hace sol y hace buen tiempo. El cielo está azul y el día es perfecto para caminar. All right, who could tell me the answer to the first question? How did the family travel to the zoo and who went on the trip? We're going to answer questions first and come back to the vocab list. You do not need to write the questions. You could write zoo passage. Right, so they went by car. Once I get the answer from a few people, I'm going to turn off the chat, right? So they're in car, just so the chat doesn't get overwhelming. They went by car. Good. Right? In carro, what other ways, I'm putting mark on the chat now, what other ways do you know to say car? You know coche, right? C-O-C-H-E, which I think is more used in Spain than Latin America, but that's okay. Right? Okay. Some of you know auto. Okay, coche seems to be the most popular one. Right, auto, good. And automobile, which is like automobile. And I think that I've seen two máquina, machine. All right. Okay, good. All right, so that's the first question answered, right? What is the next question? What kind of weather was it like on the day of the zoo visit? So we're looking at the next paragraph because the answers go more or less in order of the passage. How was the weather? Hace sol, hace buen tiempo. So there are multiple answers here. El cielo está azul. What you cannot tell me is that the day was perfect. Because suppose I am Wednesday from that show Wednesday, and so my idea of a perfect day is overcast and cloudy. Right, good. So sunny, it was sunny. There was sunshine, the sun was shining. All of those are acceptable answers, right? If you tell me the weather was good, that is also an acceptable answer. If you tell me the sky was blue, now you can't tell me hot. It doesn't say hot. You might get away with hot, but sunny doesn't automatically mean hot everywhere. Like if you're in a different country, possibly even a Latin American country where the temperatures could get cold, you could have sunshine and cold weather. So you have to tell me sunny, and you have to tell me good weather. You could tell me blue sky. Sunny and good weather are the better answers. So all right. So in terms of what you are writing, in our notebook, we are writing zoo comprehension. Right? And number one, it was sunny. Right? Or you could say the weather was good. You cannot tell me hot, and you cannot tell me it was perfect. Right? Now, number two, oh wait, that was number two. My bad. And number one was they went there by car. So number one is going over here. Right? Now, I don't need you to have these exact words. Just you must have answers in using complete sentences to one and two. Right? Okay, let's look at the next question. All right, so the next question is, what did the family observe about the zebras? Nosotros vemos las cebras. Ellas son blancas y negras y corren por el campo. So you have two things you could tell me there. What did they observe about the oh my goodness, thank you, Adafi. Number one has another part, guys, and I just steamrolled right over it. Who went on the trip? Right, so I'm getting answers to two questions now. Yes, so you all are telling me for number three, they were black and white. And what were they doing? Right, so they observed that they were black and white. No, but let's say this was a 3-mark question. So you told me like one thing or two things. What's the third thing? They were running in the field. Nice. Yes. Right. Okay, I'm closing the chat for a second. Right. So if we go back, corren comes from correr, to run. Right? So if you thought that was something, a different action, you didn't know what that action was, that means that's one of the ones you would need to note, right? All right, so they went there by car. The family and the speaker went, right? The family and the narrator went, or the narrator went with his or her family. or the whole family went. Any of those answers would be fine to complete number one. Number three, they observed that the zebras were black and white and running in the field. One other good thing of me writing on the answers, besides the fact that I could then just send a link to your parents and say, well, this is what's supposed to be in your child's book, is it? Is that I don't rush us too fast to move on to the next thing. Because if I have to write and you have to write, then we take the same amount of time, more or less, right? Okay, let's look at the next question. The next question says, how are the elephants described? Okay, you guys look at this one, find your answer, and I'll open chat just now and you'll tell me. Right, so to be clear, they were not eating in the field. Back to number two, they were not grazing in the field. Okay, so now by all means, if you don't know the word and you're in an exam, take a guess. You might be right. However, if you thought what that said was eaten, you need to write down the vocab, right? When we get to that point. Okay. How are elephants describing passage? I think you can tell me now. Después vimos las elefantes. Sorry, los elefantes. Whoops. Ellos son muy grandes y usan la trompa para comer. Now, how they're described. Okay, so just how they're described. Not what they were doing, but how they're described. The questions are to answer in English. They were very big. Right, good, very big. So easy question, easy marks, right? All right. They were using their trunk to eat, yes, but the question, I guess, doesn't ask us that. It just asks us how are they described. They described as large. What they were doing is an action, right? If it was a 3-mark question, then I would assume the examiner wanted me to put that and put it in. But if it's a normal 2-mark question, they're just very big, right? All right, next one. What special feature of giraffes is mentioned? So también visitamos las jirafas. Ellas tienen cuellos muy largos y comen las hojas de los árboles. What do the giraffes have? Right. Cuellos, sorry, muy largos, so very long necks. Cuellos is right, not the neck, right. So what special features mentioned? They have very long necks. Okay, so let's go back over here now. We're up to number 5. We're making good time. All right, can I fit everything here? 4 was the elephants are described as big or large. For space, I'm just going to put very big, right? 5, they have very long necks. Or they have long necks. Okay, and now because of my computer constraint, I need to go to a new page, right? But obviously you may not, so just continue. Right. Okay, the next question is going to say, what did the narrator eat and drink at the cafe? Right, so you take a read of these last two paragraphs, right? What did the writer eat and drink at the cafe? Right, and I'll just remind us as you're doing that, you may not, when you get a passage, you may not know every single word in the passage. Focus on what you do know and make intelligent guesses, inferences for the rest. Reasonable, I should say, not intelligent, make reasonable guesses, right? Remember when you're doing comprehensions too, you need to give complete sentences, right? For in exam conditions, you have to use complete sentences. Okay, so I'm ready to open back the chat. What did narrator eat and drink at the cafe? So we said the passage says, más tarde vamos a la cafetería. Yo como un sándwich y bebo un refresco porque tengo hambre y sed. So what did they eat and drink? The first one at least is easy, right? They ate a sandwich and they had a refresco. What is refresco? Refreshing drink is, I think, is good. It's a literal translation though. Refresco is used for soft drink. Sweet drink, as we say in the Caribbean, a lot of us. So good. It's a very important word to know. You will see it, you will need to use it. Right. So refresco, soft drink. And if you didn't know refresco and you said something reasonable like cold drink or refreshing drink or drink, good. Right? And we will learn refresco today. Okay, so ate food and drank a soft drink or drank a soda. All right. What did the family buy at the gift shop? So let's look. Antes de salir, vamos a la tienda de regalos. So what is tienda de regalos? I bet you know tienda, and I bet you know regalo. Tienda is a shop, a regalo is a gift you get at Christmas time. So, the gift shop, the shop of gifts, right? Anyway, yo compro un llavero. So I bought a llavero. And my sister compra un peluche para recordar el viaje, to remember the trip. So what did the family buy? So we have two people to account for. What did they buy? Now, peluche might be a difficult one to guess if you never met it before, right? But I bet you could figure out what llavero is because I bet you know the word for key. I bet you've met llave before. Right? Llave is key, L-L-A-V-E, like the key that you use to open the lock. So llavero is keychain. Yes, and somebody got stuffed toy. Right. So Llavero keychain and peluche stuffed toy, right? So let's go back to our answers. And we'll come back and do the grammar. So I have to write from number 6. What did the narrator eat and drink? Right? So for me, number 6, the narrator ate a sandwich and drank a soda, soft drink, right? Sweet drink. All right, number 7, maybe soda might be a better word. No, we'll leave soft drink. All right, they bought, or the narrator bought a keychain and the the sister, right? His or her sister bought a stuffed toy, right? Now we have to be careful with gender, which y'all know. I don't remember if I made the narrator masculine or feminine. I don't remember if the main character is supposed to be a boy or a girl when I put together the passage. So then I'm going to keep my answers like the narrator instead of him and her. But I should also be looking out for clues as to whether the narrator is male or female. We could tell if there's an adjective that would change in a female form. If it changes, then the narrator is female. If it doesn't change, then no. Right? Okay. If you have any questions about what we did, the passage, the questions themselves, you could ask them, right? The next thing we're going to do is the vocab list. All right, but I just given you a minute to finish up. We'll ask any questions if you have to. What was the answer for number 5? What special feature of the giraffes is mentioned? It was their long necks, right? Now, if you say a toy for the peluche, to translate peluche, you might get a mark if the examiner is feeling generous, but really they're looking for stuffed toy, right? Okay, so we don't seem to have any questions. So let's talk about vocabulary, right? Remember, if you missed a note, you come straight back to this PowerPoint on the left and you will get everything you missed there, right? All right, so I'm gonna save this for us here. Okay, we're gonna look at the making our own vocabulary list, right? Now, a vocabulary list is a personal thing in the sense that people know different words, right? What we have as our vocabulary in English and in Spanish is unique to us. So that said, there will be some words that you know, and there will be some words that you know that someone else doesn't, etc., right? So take down what is useful to you, but don't shortchange yourself. And you know you don't know the word, but you're too lazy to write it. You don't want to learn it because Spanish is a pain, and you don't understand why you have to do it. No, we're here, we're doing it. Take down the word, right? and then learn it. Okay, so I want to make this bigger a bit. Everybody can see it. Let's look at the first two paragraphs and see what vocabulary or expressions we might want from here. Oh, technology. All right. Right. It's a little bigger. We could look at it a little easier, right? All right. So I want to highlight, I want to make sure you know how we say zoo, right? How we say by car, how we say to spend the day together. And then I'm going to take it for granted that we know it is sunny and the weather is good for now. And then if you don't, you can write it down, right? We will do weather at some point, so I know we'll come back to it at some point, right? I mean, over the course of the following year, if we're doing Spanish. So, vocabulario is our heading now. And we're going to write, so they have, to the zoo is al zoológico, and that's a word you should practice saying, because we have to practice all the vowels in it. Zoológico, right? Not zoológico, not zoologic either, right? All right, so el zoológico is the zoo, right? Because if you have to send a text message to someone, where are you all going for your class trip? And you have to say the zoo. You have to be able to spell it, right? By car is in carro, and then some people said coche, and then some people said auto, and then there's also automobile. Right, with the accent on the O. So this is by car, right? To spend the day together, you're talking about family later on. You want to say what you like to do. You might want to say, well, we like to spend the day together. So we could say, pasar el día juntos, right? To spend a day together. Is there anything else in this section that anyone would like to ask for a translation for? Anything you don't understand? Anything you want to know? Just this section. We're going to the next paragraph just now. Okay, so estamos comes from estar. So estamos muy contentos means we are very happy. Vamos comes from ir to go. We are going. And the other one is caminar, which means to walk. So we are very happy because we are spending the day together. Is the sentence below, is the second sentence, right? Caminar is to walk. El cielo is a good one. I meant to write that one down. Thank you. It means sky. Hacer comes from hacer. All right, so everything in bold is a verb. And your very smart teacher put in this last question this morning, not realizing that AI already highlighted them for us. Let me just take it off, right? El cielo. Now the thing is, all this stuff in bold, that's verbs. When you learn it, you don't learn it in that form. How you learn it? You learn it with the original ending. You learn it with an AR, ER, or IR ending. So el cielo is the sky. And another word that relates to sky that is not in this passage, but I'm gonna put it here because it will come up in listenings, and who knows if we'll get the opportunity again, is skyscraper. It's not any passage. El rascacielos. Skyscraper. It's in one of the listening passages. It's also one word. When you look at contentos, what English word do you see in it? You see content, but maybe nowadays when people think content, they think TikTok and Instagram. But content, back in the day, before social media, when dinosaurs roamed the earth, had a different meaning. It meant I have everything I need. I am content. So contentos is happy. I'm not sure if the word for content is also contento in Spanish. Rascacielos. Skyscraper. All right, so I'm gonna put some verbs down. Caminar is to walk. Okay, so caminar, I think it was the most unfamiliar one here. So let me write caminar on the list. Right? But over here by the passage, I'm gonna put the others. So estar, if you need to take it down, and it means to be, right? And if you're in class yesterday, we did two verbs for to be, estar and ser. Pasar could mean to pass, but it could also mean to spend time, as it does here, right? Hacer is really from hacer, which means to make. Have you ever heard someone say it making real hot boy or it making cool today? Ever? As a way to describe the weather? In the Caribbean, in Trinidad? The reason we do that is because the way Spanish and French form weather expressions is with hacer, to make. So literally it is making sun, it is making cold, it is making hot. And so we have sort of kept that speech pattern, that language pattern. Yes, that's true. To do, as Sarah was, to make, to do. Yeah, all right, to do. Okay, let's go. We can see the next paragraph here, right? So we have zebras. We could say la zebra. I just have a different color, but colorful pens make your notes nicer anyway. And the other one I want to point out is, but I feel better. Vemos is from ver, which means to see, right? So let's put ver on the list. And corren is from correr, which means to run. Right? Okay, I'm gonna give everybody a minute to catch up here, and then we're gonna shift the page to the right. All righty. All right. We gotta continue, right? This is taking a little bit longer than I expected. And so your energy is probably flagging a little bit, I would think, but let's try and bear with it. We're almost to the end, right? Oh God. Yeah, we're almost to the end, almost to the end. Um, we'll be done by 10 o'clock. We'll be done in 10 minutes, right? Okay, so we already said vemos meant ver. El elefante, if you want, you could note that. But if you remember it, no problem. La trompa for the trunk, I think I would note that. To me, trompa looks like, trumpet. And have you ever heard the sound of an elephant described as like a trumpet, a trumpeting sound? So that's how I would connect that in my head, right? And comer. So comer, some people just now mixed up to run with to eat. So I will write comer, to eat, right? Someone asked me earlier in the chat, it was a good question. These elephants are los elefantes, so they're either male or a mix of male and female, right? If the elephants were all female, it would become las elefantas. But I think next week I'm making a note to do a separate lesson on animals and gender, both in this class and the Tuesday class. Tuesday class we did pets, here we're doing zoo animals. So we'll talk about animals and gender, but I need to have examples ready to go. So I'll prepare that for next week. Ready? All right, one time to the right here, we have giraffes. right? So las jirafas, the giraffes. Oops. Right? And I would also note neck, since that gave a little trouble, I think. El cuello, the neck, right? Oh, and below it, we have las hojas de los árboles. Did you all know what this was? La hoja and el árbol. The giraffes were eating it, so if you had to guess, leaves of the trees, right? So hoja is leaf. Right, and el árbol is tree. Right, okay, so leaf, and you know, if you have a sheet of paper, that is also la hoja. Because other than calling it a sheet of paper, you might call it a leaf, loose leaf paper. A leaf is a page, right? All right, the tree. Right, después, where is después? Después is back here. This means after. And as if we're saying después, let us also do también, which means also, right? Now, if you're saying to yourself, well, I already know these words, these are such basic, well, después and the también, right? The next step for you then is to make sure when you are writing things, you put them in. Do you put them in? Do you put in conjunctions? In your paragraphs, in your letters, when you're speaking to somebody or writing on a conversation? They are good connectors to use, right? All right, a minute again, and we move into the last section. And then we could breathe a sigh of relief. Whew. What are y'all doing the rest of your Friday after class? Going back to sleep, some people, I bet. Did y'all already buy school supplies? Do you have to go Shogunas Main Road to get any? Does anybody watch Percy Jackson? Did y'all see that the third season is coming out in November? Are you excited? Yeah, I'm excited. I'm not excited that I have to wait for one episode every week, but I'm excited for season 3. My goodness, guys, we have a blasphemer in class. They like the movie more. What? My son who just finished preschool going into primary school got a gift certificate, but we have to use it at the Charons and Shogunas. And I think it expires at the end of the month. But I am using that gift certificate. We are going. It is happening. We are getting unnecessary pencils. All right, let's go to our last section, right? All right, so más tarde, look, another linking phrase here, linking word, más tarde, later, right? Okay, so vamos is from ir, to go. Now, everything in this passage is in present tense right now, because once we go over past tense, we are going to put the verbs into past tense. So right now it's highlighted. Right? So we went to the cafeteria. If you would like to know cafeteria, you could, but it's the same word with the accent, right? Cafeteria. I eat a sandwich. So I'm saying went in English, but really the Spanish says later we go to the cafeteria. I eat a sandwich and drink a soft drink or soda. So let us know that word, un refresco, because if you ever have to do restaurant dialogue, you probably have to order a refresco, right? A soda, soft drink, sweet drink, fizzy, bubbly, gassy drink. Right? How do we say to be hungry? We say I have hunger in Spanish. So we say tener hambre, right? I would say this one is optional. But if ever I ask you a question you don't know it, I'm gonna be like, well, on the 24th of July at 9:59 a.m., I gave you tener hambre and you chose not to write it down. So make sure you know it or write it down, right? To be hungry and to be thirsty, tener sed. So literally in Spanish, we say to have hunger. I have hunger, I have thirst, right? But the English, we say, I am hungry, I am thirsty, right? Okay, so another little conjunction here, antes de, before, right? And before, if I look back at the passage now, después vemos, but here we have, oh, all right, so it was just después, it wasn't después de, but now you have antes de. You'll notice that difference? So let me give you this expression. Instead of antes de is before, let's go with antes de plus the infinitive means before doing something. Right? Now, if I had, so you could extrapolate, right? If it was después de plus the infinitive, it would mean after doing something. So right now is antes de salir, before doing whatever salir is. But if it was antes de comer, it would be before eating. Antes de, what else did we read? What else did we meet? Antes de tener hambre, before being hungry. Before, antes de ir, before going. Right. And salir is to leave, right? So to leave, to go out of, salir is a very useful verb. To go out like to date, right? So to go out socially, to go out with your friends is salir. To go out on a date is salir. To go out of a building is salir. Right, what is árboles? So over on the left hand, we have the singular form of that, el árbol, which is the tree, right? So los árboles will be trees. All right. The rest of the last paragraph, La tienda de regalos, gift shop, right? Now, this is a lesson for us in general on how to say what type of store we're going to, right? Because while there are special words, just a second. So for instance, there's carniceria for butchers. There's joyeria for jewelry store, right? Let's say you don't know the special word. You could improvise because language is fluid. You could use different things to say things, right? And this is how we do it. We say the shop of whatever. So let's say it was a shop selling pets, a pet shop, La tienda de pets, mascotas. Let's say it was an elephant shop, La tienda de elefantes. A giraffe shop, La tienda de jirafas, right? A bookstore. There's libreria, but if you can't remember libreria, you say La tienda de libros, and you'll get by in a pinch, right? All right, so I'm going over here now to fit everything on this one piece that I will screenshot. La tienda de regalos, gift shop, right? We also learned here llavero for keychain because we recognize the root of the word L-L-A-V-E for key, right? So el llavero, keychain, and peluche, which I said was a stuffed toy, but somebody else translated as a plushie. And both of those would work. And so if you see both those words in English, it's the same peluche in Spanish, right? Or a soft toy, a stuffed animal, still peluche. And I think that is it for the vocab in this passage. Ah, recordar. Let's do recordar. Recordar is to remember, right? And then related to that is a useful noun for souvenirs. Recuerdos. Let me make it el recuerdo. For souvenir, right? Because if you go on a trip, you might want to say that you got souvenirs. So you would say recuerdo. Good. If there's any other vocab that you will need to know the meaning of and we didn't address it, please ask in the chat now. Now, we will not always be this thorough with vocabulary when it comes to a passage, right? And remember that you could come back to the PowerPoint to get the whatever notes if you don't finish. But I'm gonna wait 2 minutes before we move on to the next thing. So finish up your note. If you are done with the note, you want to get a drink of water within that 2 minutes. You want to do 25 jumping jacks. Within that 2 minutes, go ahead, right? I'm gonna wait 2 minutes to continue. Viaje is trip. Where was viaje? Oh, right, el viaje, that's the last word, my bad. Right, so viaje is trip or travel. Viajar is the verb to travel. The vamos part. Okay, so that's the top sentence of this last section. Más tarde, that part, or the antes de salir part? Probably the antes de salir part. Before leaving, we go to the gift shop. Now, guys, you don't need a one-to-one translation to understand what is in the passage, right? Don't feel like you need to understand every single word. Como up here is from comer, to eat. Is vamos pronounced as vamos in Spain? It is, perhaps. Yes. In Latin America, no. Well, maybe informally in Latin America, but not in the way it's pronounced as with a B in Spain. You know, I saw this infographic and I wish I had saved it, but I didn't. It was a comparison between what Latin Americans say and what Spanish people say, but it was like World Cup theme now. One side was the blue and white jersey, one side was the red and blue jersey. And I didn't save it because I was like, nobody cares what they say in Spain anymore. But now I kind of wish I had. The passage is written sorry. The passage is written in present tense right now. But when I was speaking, it is possible I may have put some English in past tense because it meant to be in past tense, right? So sorry about that. Right now, this passage is written in present tense, and next week's job will be let us take all these present tense verbs and write them over as past tense. So that's why it's como, it's present tense. I eat a sandwich and drink a soda. So next week when we change it to past tense, it will be comi and baby. All right. Y'all got 3 minutes out to me. Let us move on to making this smaller first of all. Right. All right, so hey, but you know what the good thing is, you don't have this homework anymore. So if I go back to slide where I showed you the homework, I could delete this because we did it. And now this is your homework. All right, let's look at, please say we have a question. Yes, we have a question. One question. Tomar el pelo, what is that? Don't tell me in the chat, please. Tell me via this fancy poll, which I'm about to launch. This is the results from the first poll where the majority of people got option B, right? Right, so what does tomar el pelo mean? Does it mean to grow your hair long? Right, so does it mean to grow your hair long? Does it mean to pull someone's leg? Does it mean to get a new haircut? Does it mean to wash your hair? I'll give you a clue. If you are pulling someone's hair, what are you doing to them? Oops, wrong side. Yeah. What are you doing to them if you're pulling their hair? Or you're taking their hair in your hand? Well, I mean, the picture is clearly pulling it. All right, last 10 seconds. So if you want to answer, answer quickly. All right, let's see. You all told me the majority of people said B. And you all are correct. To pull someone's leg. To harass them. To bother them. To play a prank on them. right? So if you want, you could go back to where you had the first one. Did I have it by itself, boy? No, I think I stick it on a page with something. But tomorrow pelo is to put someone's like to tease someone. So if you're writing a letter and you want to complain about your older sibling or your younger sibling, right? You could talk about them doing this. Right? And look at this nice little reminder of a grammar rule here. Pelo is a body part. And in Spanish, it's never my hair or my hand or my foot or my this or your this or his this or her this. It's always el pelo, the hair, the hand, the foot, los dientes, the teeth, right? We never talk about ownership in relation to a body part. Why? I have no idea. Okay. One more, and then we're going to go back to, we're going to go to the how we form the past tense, right? All right. Que onda? You all know what this means? Where did my poll go? All right, this is the previous one. And let's launch this one now. Does it mean what time is it? What's up? How's it going? What's a mess? To make a big wave. Because onda means wave, right? You all know this one. Overwhelmingly, people are choosing the correct answer. All right, 10 seconds. Okay. So yes, it is B, right? What's up? How's it going? Very informal expression. You say it to your friends, right? So if you're writing a dialogue, completing a dialogue for CSEC, and it's your friend that you're talking to in that dialogue, then you could greet them with "Que onda?" Or they might greet you with "Que onda?" Right? What's up? Okay. Let us get to our past tense. Now, it's very important if here you don't understand something, you tell me, right? And I want to get through formation of preterite and imperfect, but we might not, and that's okay. Right. Okay, so let's remind ourselves first. So we're reminding, we're not writing necessarily. If you want to write, you could. Forming the past tense, right? We have to start from the infinitive. Yes? Now yesterday, right? I asked the class, what does it mean to conjugate a verb? And we talked about conjugating a verb means two things, right? So a teacher will say, conjugate this verb. Or the instructions will say, conjugate the verb in the past tense or the present tense. And what does it mean? Well, in the context of Spanish, conjugate a verb or form the past tense verb or form the present tense verb, form the future tense, whatever it is, right? So conjugate a verb means change the ending. No, unless the verb is irregular. If the verb is normal, well adjusted, came from a stable home, eats 3 square meals a day, and it's regular, then it's just change the ending, right? And when we change the ending, we will show who is doing the action. So we will show the subject is what it's called in a grammar book, the doer of the action, and it will also show the tense. So is the action a now action, a present tense action? Is the action a yesterday action, a past tense action? Is the action a tomorrow action, future tense, right? So when we say conjugate the verb, what teachers mean is change the ending of the verb in order to tell me who is doing it and what is the tense, right? We always start from the infinitive. Now in Spanish, we have 3 groups of infinitives. You all know this. It is mirar, ER ending, right? It is comer, ER ending, and it is vivir, IR ending, right? This is called the infinitive. The English version of this is the to form of the verb, right? To look at, to eat, to live, right? And these are the matching transitions for the 3 verbs there, yes? Okay, so we start from there. That is our starting point. If we're on a Monopoly board, this is where we've chosen our piece and we're sitting, we maybe have our $200 and we're about to go around the board, right? Right. The next thing we do is we take off the ending, right? We can't add something new to most of the tenses until we take off the ending. And of course, there are exceptions. Future and conditional, we add to the infinitive, right? But we remove the ending and what we're left with is a stem. It's like if you had a flower. Look at this pretty flower. Wait, let's give it a green stem. Right, so you have a flower. It's a pretty sunflower or a daisy or a weed, whatever, right? And it has roots at the end. Right? All right, we only want the stem part. This is the stem, right? So a verb looks like a word, but it really is a word with an ending, which is either AR or ER or IR, and then in front of that is the stem. Yes? So we really remove the ending to get to the stem. And then to the stem, we add things. We add a new ending. And that new ending is to match whomever is doing the action. Whoops, whoops, whoops. Right. That new ending is to show who is doing the action. And it's to show the tense. Do I have another one for tense here? No, I have a rule on that. Okay. So it's really new ending to match the person doing the action and the tense. Right? All right. I am not asking you to write this in your notes, but if there are some of you who find it useful and want to write it down, I can spare a minute now for you to take a screenshot, and you could finish writing it when you're finishing up your notes, right? But this makes sense to everybody. This procedure is just revision for lots of people, I'm sure, but it makes sense to everybody. Anybody is confused by it, now is the time to tell me. Now, how do you know which ending you have to add? Well, you have to get a dice and then you have to roll the dice. No, I'm joking, obviously, right? How do you know which ending to add? Because your teacher taught it to you and you memorized it. That's how you know, right? Whether the teacher is me or the teacher in school or it was the textbook, that is how you know. You have to learn it. It's not something that will come intuitively. Right? Now, when you were in, I bet you all don't remember in first year and second year. And I don't either. It's just I see it because now I have kids who are close to that level. So I saw what they did, right? How we learned language was we would practice writing lots of sentences with I am. And so it sticks in your head, oh, I'm supposed to say I am. And probably in Latin American countries, that's how they do it too. The little kids practice writing yo soy or yo estoy, and that's how they learn it, right? But we don't have that luxury because we only have 2 years. So instead, we have to memorize a pattern and know and know what we use when according to the pattern, right? Right. So the ending of the verb has to match the I, you, he, she, it, we, they. Yes. Right. Okay, right. So, yeah, songs to sing. I'm going to add that to my list of things to look for. Songs for endings, because maybe that might help you remember the ending. But I am not singing anything to hundreds of strangers on the internet. So, but that might be a good strategy to help you remember it. So I'm gonna look for some. I'm gonna find some videos on YouTube with it if I can. All right, I can clear away this slide, right? Everybody who wanted to take a screenshot took it. And I think only one person so far has told me that they're a bit lost, probably because they're doing it for the first time, right? All right, let's go then to the actual endings. Sorry, we will have to come back. Well, okay, let's do this without a poll. What does this one mean? Andale. Does it mean keep walking, please? Does it mean hurry up? Come on. Does it mean I'm almost there? Does it mean watch your step? Yes, it means hurry up. So next week at about 8:30, when it's almost time for 9 o'clock Spanish, and I'm concerned that you all are still sleeping, I'll send a message on the channel saying andale, andale. Right? Yes. Great. So andale means hurry up. Oh, I skipped something here. Huh. All right, I either move something out of order, this line I'm looking for is not in place, or I accidentally deleted something. Yeah, all right, the slide that's supposed to be here is not here. Let me see if I moved it down. Ooh, all right. I think I accidentally deleted. So, all right, let's go to our notes, right? And sorry, I don't have the cool graphic. So we're in our notebooks, right? And the first thing I want to tell you or remind you of is that in Spanish, there are two main ways to indicate past tense. Yes? So, so our topic now is past tense, right? And we want to remember that there are two main ways. And what are the two main ways? They are preterite and imperfect, right? Now, what is the difference? Preterite is sometimes spelled with an E and sometimes spelled without an E in English. In Spanish, it's really pretérito. So the E is not an issue, but I think the correct way is without the E, but it just looks weird. And it does exist both ways. Anyway, so we have preterite, we have imperfect, right? I'm going to use red or as close to red as I could get for preterite. Preterite is for what? Single completed actions. If it's completed, it's in the past, but I'm going to put in the past, right? Single completed actions in the past. I'm also going to put here interrupting actions. Right? That interrupted an ongoing action, in the past. Right? And I'll give you an example of this one. The first one is fairly easy. You could figure out easy. Okay, it was in the past. It's done. Great. So an example for this one though is I was teaching. That's not the preterite. When my son opened the door. That's the interrupting action, and it just happened. Right. So this is the interrupting action here. He opened the door, right? So you can see it interrupts the other thing that was going on. That's the interrupter. You all know the knock knock joke about the cow where knock knock, who's there? Cow moo, and then he answers interrupting cow. It's better when there's two people and it's in person. All right, next one is the imperfect, right? The imperfect is for an action that is going on for a while in the past. So it's an ongoing action in the past. It may have been completed, but it could still be going on right now. Right? But the thing is, the when you use the imperfect, you mean to convey this was going on for a while. Right? And I'll give you an example. I was teaching. Right? But even if it is finished, the goal is still to show it was going on for a while. Right? Another use of the imperfect is when the thing was a habit in the past. Right? So past, habitual action. Right? So I used to teach at a different school. It went on for a while. Right? I would eat lunch at 11:30 a.m. Right? That used to happen in the past. Right? Now notice we using the word would in this example. In English, when we say would, a lot of times is not past, we're referring to. No, sorry, I have that backwards. Sometimes when we use the word would, it's not past we're referring to. So we always have to be careful to think when this person is saying would, when I'm saying would, do I mean it in the past or do I mean it as something I would do if there was some other condition in place, conditional tense, right? All right, so ongoing action, past habitual action, and the last one, description. It was hot. Or better yet, it was sunny. Right? So this is our note to remind us of the uses of the preterite and of the imperfect. I'm going to give you 2 minutes and then I want to go through the endings. So I forgot the last slide was underlay and the meaning was hurry up. And I'm clicking through messages and I saw hurry up. And I thought a student was telling me to hurry up. But it was underlay that we were talking about, right? Whoops, sorry. Okay. The wrong one. Okay. All right, one more minute, right? Because we are getting through these endings before we end class. Okie dokie. Let's check. Let's go to our endings, right? So remember, you can come back to this PowerPoint if you didn't finish your note. You could also take a screenshot within, if you could do it within 10 seconds. And let's go to our endings, right? All right, so we're going to do portrait endings first. Now, luckily for past tense, it's just two sets of endings, right? So if I have the verb mirar, we'll use an example, which means to look at, to watch, right? Those of us who've done past tense already, can you conjugate for me in the chat, mirar in the past tense? I'm going to write out the English on the left-hand side here in the meantime. And I'm going to use watch because that's a little shorter than I looked at. So I watched, you, singular, and informal, watched. Right? So if you know it, put it in the chat. Let me see, right? He watched, but it's already he, she, it, or usted watched, right? Which is singular but formal, you, right? Then we watched, they watched, or you plural, watched. Right? So in English, it's easy for the past tense. You just put ed on the end and you're good to go. But in Spanish, what happens? We take off the AR. Right? So if remember previous slide, we take off the AR and we have to add for the yo form, mire. for the 2-4. Sorry, let me write out the subject pronouns too. Okay, I think we will only get through portrait. Yo mire, tu miraste. All right, I'm going to go back and highlight what is the ending, but you could see it, right? Ella, usted, miró, right? Nosotros miramos. So it looks just like the present. Ellos, ellas, ustedes miraron. All right, so if we have an AR verb and we want to change that to say past tense action, these are the endings we add, right? So in your notes, please, well, I'm using a highlighter, but you could use an underline, you could use a different color, but highlight the endings, right? So the endings for AR verbs are aste, o, amos, aro, right? Okay, rather than rush down the ER and the IR, we will stop with this. So then the homework is going to be a little bit different because I anticipated we would be further along than we are. Okay? Okay, if anyone is confused, let me know. Everybody should be writing this down. Only a couple people sent me correct answers, and I'm gonna bet that those people would not give me stress about writing it down because usually those are the students. So if anybody was going to be excused, it would be them, right? But for the sake of having a complete set of notes, write it down now. The conjugation for the vosotros form is a accent I. Wait, hold on. Miramos. Yeah, a accent is, but that is not on the syllabus anymore. You're not going to get that for CSEC because Latin America does not use vosotros. So if your school is an overachiever school and they teach it to you, great. But don't use it to answer anybody. And don't write it on the exam. You could, I just put nosotros, sorry, that's just habit. But it is also nosotras. Like if the we group was all female, it would be nosotras, right? All right, so let's recap what we did today. We spent our time looking at a passage on a visit to the zoo. We did a lot of work with vocabulary, and we met some idiomatic expressions, and we started talking about preterite and imperfect. We talked about when they're used, and we talked about how to form the preterite tense for AR verbs, right? Next week, we do preterite tense for ER and IR verbs, and hopefully we'll also get to the imperfect, right? In terms of homework, complete your notes, and also let me just, because we were running out of time, so let me show you the homework, and then you can come back and finish your notes if you need to, right? So homework is over here. There's a slide. Slide 45, right? You can only do this is the point. There's two things, right? Practice conjugated in preterite and imperfect, but we only got through preterite for AR. So only do the preterite for the AR verbs. And look, we just did mirar. So it's just trabajar, cantar, bailar you have, right? And then this question. Do a little research on the Patagonias region. Find out why it's a tourist attraction in Latin America, which countries, and so on. right? It is written, the homework is written down again, and the links to the PowerPoints are here. I'm sending this one more time. Okay, when you are done with the notes, if you have no more questions, then you all are free to log off. Enjoy the rest of your Friday, right? If you're still writing down this piece, go ahead. I'm just closing the chat for a moment so that I don't get a lot of goodbye messages that will stop me from answering quickly, right? Someone asked when we will do numbers and colors, etc. That is in this PowerPoint, the PowerPoint with the notes. If you want to do it on your own because you want the notes, go ahead, right? But we will not be doing that until during the course of next year, if you continue with us. All right, I'm going to reopen the chat in like 2 minutes if you have questions. Once you are done, once again, you're free to log off, right? Remember, you can also get the link to the class recording and the PowerPoints on the channel. All right, guys, I'm going to reopen the chat for anybody with questions now. if you have a question, you could go ahead and send it, right? If not, then within a minute or so, I'm going to go ahead and close the meeting, right? Enjoy the rest of your Friday. All right, so remember you have a link to a page that will take you to get the homework, right? And then you just open the PowerPoints and you could scroll down on your own to it, right? Yes, only the era verbs and future tense and the research, right? I'll probably change the instructions on the page, but I won't be able to do it for a couple hours. And it's nothing to turn in, it's just to practice with the endings for people who haven't done it before. Some people have done it before, it'll be really easy for them. And then some of us who are meeting it for the first time would give us trouble before. Right. So what I said was the vosotros forms of the verb, which most schools don't teach anyway, wouldn't be on CSEC, right? All right, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and close the meeting.